The Pixel Fold is the most disappointing phone that I think Google has ever made. I have the phone, I largely enjoyed it, but of course I was very critical before the phone even came out because I saw the writing on the wall. They want 1,799 bucks. They charged $1,800 for this phone. They use year-old outdated technology that I maintain that they basically took a bunch of leftover parts out of the parts bin and they put it together just so they could say, "Hey, we made a folding phone." They should have never made this phone. They should have waited because one, the Pixel 9 Pro Fold is a better phone, but this one just doesn't add up, right? So this phone came out a year ago. It came out last summer. It came out basically 2 months before the Pixel 8 came out, and they put the Tensor 2. Yes, the Tensor 2 in here, which we all know the Tensor 2. It was an okay chip. It did have some improvements over the original Tensor. Still suffered from battery issues, still suffered from heat issues, still didn't have a good modem. So we knew that from the get-go. And then they put the Pixel 7a cameras in this thing. Like the cameras, they're okay, but they're not $1,800. And then they screwed us. One way they seriously screwed us is because what happened right after this phone came out. So fast forward 2 months after this phone came out, we got the Pixel 8, we got the Tensor 3. This phone, at a minimum, should have had the Tensor 3. I would at least given it a little bit more of a pass for that. But what happened? We got the advent of the 7 years of operating system updates and 7 years of security patches. So Google basically doubled the price of their Pixel 7 Pro, which was the flagship phone that was akin to this. They sold us this for $17.99 with the older update system of 3 years of operating system updates and 5 years of security patches. So they knew, like Google knew, right after they screwed us and charged us almost $2,000 for this outdated hardware phone, that they were going to have a new chip, new screens, new updates, and a new software support policy that guaranteed 7 years. Now, why would they do that to us? Like, why so close, right? And I don't know. I maybe they thought, okay, just because it's a foldable phone, people will find more value in it. But when I look at this stuff and knowing what they did right after the phone came out, knowing they were launching this with a chip that was already almost a year old, that was on the way out the door, we were about to get the new one, and then charge us $1,800 for it, it's just plain wrong. And I was saying these things about the phone before it ever even came out because when they announced it at Google I/O, they're like, "Hey, the Pixel Fold is coming," and there was so much excitement. And then when you look at it, and you're like, "All right, Tensor 2, that's a no-go. $17.99. This phone should have never been priced more than $1,399. I'm sorry." And then on top of that, we have the screen that doesn't even open up flat all the way. We have these giant bezels on it, outdated older cameras. It's like they're like, "Hey, let's grab stuff that we've had sitting around for the last year or two, and we'll use some of the parts that the Pixel 7 is using, the Pixel 7a, to save some money. We're not going to have our industry-leading camera in here. We're not going to have all the good stuff. We're going to give you the crappier cameras. We're going to give you the crappier support, the crappier chip. And by the way, if anybody's dumb enough to buy this phone, we're going to sell it for almost $2,000. So, yeah. Anyway, very frustrating. And I got this phone. I bought it and then I returned it after like a week because I'm like, hey, this phone is not worth $1,800. So if you're watching this now and don't understand what happened last year, why did I get it again? Well, like a couple of weeks after I returned it, I went to Las Vegas. I was out there for a few days and I was walking down this Vegas strip. I saw the T-Mobile store and they had an advertisement to get $1,000 off with no trade-in. So basically, I ended up getting it for $799. Granted, all that's like bill credits and stuff, which I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna probably keep this thing anyway. At $799, it's a good phone. And if you're interested in getting one now, you can actually get one Amazon renewed for like $598. If you've been in the market and you are interested in this phone, I'm going to tell you straight up, it's not a bad phone. It is an okay phone. But an okay phone with outdated hardware for $17.99 last year is an absolute no-go. But most people genuinely kind of seem to like the experience. They like the Pixel Fold for what it is. And if you go into it knowing, okay, it's not getting supported for 7 years, it doesn't have the Tensor 3, no Tensor 4, the screen is not the brightest, it has big bezels, like there are some shortcomings, but if you've wanted a entry into the foldable phone world, if you don't want to pay that $1,800 for the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, you can still get a pretty decent folding phone experience with this. But notice how I'm a little bit more positive at the $598 price point than I am at the $1,799 price point. Also, the fact that I got it for $1,000 off. Getting it for $1,000 off a month after it comes out, a couple weeks after it comes out, yeah, that's not a bad deal. And if you got one of those deals, you're probably largely happy with it. I know a lot of people are not as big of a cynic as I am when it comes to this stuff, but I very much believe in value. I believe in companies doing the right thing, and I call stuff out whenever I see BS, and I have with this phone for the longest time. It's okay. And okay is fine if you're not charging $1,800. And it really rubbed me the wrong way from the get-go. And then it rubbed me even more the wrong way once the Pixel 8 series came out, because like the screen on here is not very bright. The speakers are not that great. What did we get with the Pixel 8 series? We got the actual display. They gave us 2,000 nits brightness with the Pixel 8 and like 2,400 nits brightness with the Pixel 8 Pro. And this one maxes out at 1450. That's max. Like the highest you can turn it up manually is 1,000, which is okay historically. To the point of the Pixel 7s, the screens hadn't been incredibly bright, but this one, yeah, the screen's not that bright. It's okay. And that's like, again, the revolving theme with this phone is it's okay, but nothing should be okay when you're charging almost $2,000 and then very obviously moved on from this phone and then basically scrapped everything that was good about it, copied other phone designers, and went with the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, which of course is still not Pro. Like I made a video saying it's not Pro. The Tensor 4 is great. I love the Tensor 4. I think they've done a good job with it. Power, performance, all that good stuff. I didn't get the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. One, because I was still handcuffed with this thing that I bought. I really wasn't that impressed with it, and I learned my lesson after the first time. I wasn't going to go spend $1,800 on it. And I was part of Team Pixel whenever the phone came out, and they were supposed to send me one, but then after I found out all the shenanigans that they were trying to do and what they were trying to get us to agree to be part of the Team Pixel program, I packed my baggage. I said, peace out. I'm no longer going to be part of the Team Pixel program. Well, they were going to send it to me, so I didn't pre-order one. Well, by time all that fallout happened with the Team Pixel program happened, the pre-orders for the Pixel 9 were like well over a month out. And in the world of tech reviews, yeah, they'd get like 500 views, right? They just really wouldn't be worth me to spend $1,800. And I really wasn't that crazy about this one. So if I wasn't that crazy about this one, I still have trust issues with them with regard to their foldable phones, and then not being able to get it till like 4 to 6 weeks after it came out. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just skip the Pixel Fold. Everybody else, if they want to cover it, they can go ahead. I bought the Pixel 9, the Pixel 9 Pro, and the Pixel 9 Pro XL, which I've covered at length. And I think all three of them are very, very good phones. I think Google did a fantastic job with it. I've got to spend some time with the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, and it's cool, but it's like they took everything that basically, like, I liked this form factor. I thought it was unique. I thought it stood out. I thought if maybe they could shave some weight off, if they could get better cameras, if we got the Tensor 4, if they could do something about these bezels, if they could make it actually flatten out straight. Yeah, there were some things that I thought, okay, Pixel Fold, okay on launch, right? But if we can get an upgraded Pixel Fold 2 and they kind of fine-tune this a little bit, maybe they might be onto something special here. And I like this passport size, good for single-hand use, and the front screen experience on this was like second to none. After using the Galaxy Fold, the Z Fold series phones, and having that tiny, skinny front screen, this was kind of like a breath of fresh air, and so much so that I said, hey, the front screen experience on this thing is so good, I don't even open it up very often because it's just so good, right? I love the dimensions on this, and the screen itself is fine. Like I said, revolving story about this phone is it's okay. But again, okay is not okay for $1,800. And the way they made this phone, they basically threw a bunch of parts together. They gave us, this is more akin to the Pixel 7a than it is an actual Pixel 8 series phone or a Pixel 7 series phone, the higher end one. And they charged us out the wazoo for it, and then knew they weren't going to support it for 7 years when the new ones were going to get 7 years, knew it wasn't going to get the actual display, knew they were putting Pixel 7a cameras in here, knew they were using an outdated chipset. It just, the list goes on and on. And the battery life is not particularly that great either. Like, I barely get, on average, about 5 hours of screen on time out of using this thing in a single day. Now, I haven't tested it too much since Android 15 has come out. We do have Android 15 now. I do have it on here, and I fiddled around with it some, but I wanted to sit down and talk about it because, well, it's been a while, and a lot of folks have been wondering why I didn't get the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. It was largely due to my disappointment with this. And then the fact that I told Team Pixel to kick rocks, and then I was like, you know what, I'm not buying that. Maybe I'll get one later. Maybe I'll pick one up at some point in time. But no, they burnt me pretty bad with this one. I wasn't about to go spend another $1,800 to buy the new one just to see what they do with that one. So anyway, yeah, the Pixel Fold, most disappointing Pixel phone ever made. Putting my stamp on it. That's my thoughts on it. But again, like I said, at $589, I would buy one. I wouldn't buy another. I wouldn't pay $1,000 for it. I wouldn't pay $1,200 for it. The new one shouldn't be $1,800. But if you can get one Amazon renewed for $589, that's not a bad deal, because a lot of people don't like to pay top-end prices. They like to wait. The Tensor 2 is okay. The overall phone itself has not been a bad experience. Like, it's not been bad. So I do want to highlight that as well. But yeah, if you want to get one Amazon renewed for $589, that's not that big of a deal. That's pretty darn cheap, especially since the phone's only a year old, which further tells you like how much these things are actually worth. And then it was even more insulting. They were only going to give us like $765 trade-in towards the new one. So I'm like, okay, you're giving us less than half. You're giving us like 40% trade-in value year over year after you knew that you screwed people so bad. Like, that's not cool at all. So anyway, that's my story on the Pixel Fold. It's an okay phone. It wasn't worth that. We've covered all that ad nauseum. But if you want to pick one up, Amazon renewed. The Amazon new program is pretty good. They give you 90 days. So if anything happens to it within 90 days, you can get it fixed. You can replace it. You can return it at no cost, whatever. Like, if you use it for 2 months, you're like, you know what, this phone isn't for me, you can send the sucker back, and no harm, no foul. So I have a lot of trust in the Amazon renewed program. I think it's very good. And I think it's very good for stuff like this, because it does require people to go out on a limb. Like, you got to take a little bit of a risk, I think, when it comes to phones like this, especially when it's the first generation, right? It's not like we're on the Z Fold 6, Z Fold 5. This is the first one they ever made, and largely Samsung made like 70% of this phone. So I think it's not a bad first generation phone from a build quality perspective. I love the colors, the porcelain, the obsidian, and the build quality is good, other than the fact that like it just doesn't open completely flat. But anyway, that's all I've got. If you have any questions, comments, gripes, concerns, complaints, all that stuff, of course, go to the comment section. I'll do my best to get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, if you found this helpful, if you like the Pixel stuff, of course, hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.